When you look back at your life before this moment and you think about what do I wish I would have known in the past that I know now, and I started to think about anything that was ever a mistake, I called a mistake or a problem, was basically the result of lack of discernment. And I wrote a book called Prospering Choices that I haven't published yet. But what that's about is for kind-hearted people who always want to see the good in others, but fail to have discernment. And that means we have to have a twofold vision, that we see the God presence in everyone, but we also notice where they are in their consciousness and their level of awareness. And when I look at the past, I think that any of the choices that I made that really turned out troublesome were basically, I didn't use discernment. I didn't really see where that person was, or I didn't really realize the ramifications of my choices, because every cause is going to have an effect. And yet there's another side to it. If I really look at all the value I've gained from every single choice, even what seemed like a huge mistake, when I actually found out what was the gift that was there, the gift far overrode the problem that came from not making a choice with good discernment. So we can't even look to the past and say we made a mistake, when I like to call it my research. And my very first book, What You Think of Me Is None of My Business, I was in an abusive relationship, and it was, those codependency. It was one of the first books on basically codependency. And it was how I was making choices on basically choosing people who were alcoholics, or choosing people in my life who really wanted something rather than wanted to give or wanted to contribute. But I also look at why I made those choices in my life. And by looking at who I am and why I made my choices, that helped me to let go of behavior or consciousness that really was not at my highest level. So when we look at the past and we think about all the mistakes we think we made, or all the failures, and it's so amazing how people out there do think about that. Oh, how did that marriage fail? Well, maybe it didn't fail. Maybe it served its function and its purpose. But we're all tied into the idea of success means it goes on and on and on and on. And after 70 years you've been together, we say, well, you succeeded in that. Or a business that starts and it does really well, but after a time you decide you don't want to do it anymore. Then a lot of people say, well, what went wrong? How did that business fail? Well, it didn't fail. It did what it was supposed to do. And when the time was over, the time was over. And it was now time to move on. So when we look at the past, instead of dwelling there, what we want to do is find out what were the errors in our thinking or in our choices that really led to the difficult situation. Find what it is, make the correction, and now apply that correction, which we call wisdom, in the moment. So as we move forward into our lives and we take that wisdom that we have gained from the past, plus the knowledge that we have received since that time through our studies, our research, our meditations, and all of that, we make everything that's ever happened to us be part of our present time success and where we're going. And what does success mean? It means that you achieved your goal, or you achieved your objective. So as I go forward into my life, and we always have a future because we are eternity, I can apply all those lessons. I can remember them, and those are my wisdom. And so now I can perceive what other people are up to. Before I make my choices, I look at what are the ramifications of my choices. Something might look good at the beginning, but you have to look at where is it going to lead to, what is my intention when I make that choice, and take that I call responsibility. But even that word responsibility is not the best word we could use, because that means we're always responding to everybody else, and that's been one of our problems. we're responding to that person in this situation. We're always responding when we want to act. I call it actability, not so much responsibility, but my actability. I have the power and ability to act as I choose in every single moment. And that's what all of these lessons have been about. And life is not about lessons, because you have an unlimited number of lessons that you're going to learn. For what purpose and what reason? So there's basically one lesson. Do you trust your inner guidance and also knowledge? Or do we just trust our impulse or our desire to get something for nothing? Or because someone was nice to us, we decide maybe we'll marry them at that time, but we have no idea of their track record or what their consciousness is? Or we go into business or partnership with someone who is not ethical, but they weren't ethical in their business practices before. So these are things that we say, well, how come I'm such a victim? How come this happens to me? But we have to look at there's a common denominator in every single experience we've ever had, and that means that we were there. So that people think, well, that makes it more complicated. I want it easier, but there isn't any such thing as easy until we are in harmony with our own inner guidance, harmony with nature. And that what we're dealing with then is what is real selfishness. There's the selfishness that doesn't care about anybody else, but there's the selfishness that says I do have to be true to myself. And that when we are true to ourselves and our inner guidance as real human beings, we are not cruel and we're not hateful or envious or angry, because we know that we are cause, and the outer world is the world of effects. And that means we need to be intelligent when we make our choices. And that we, instead of going into the past and always beating ourselves up for choices we made in the past, learn the lesson. And one of the biggest problems humanity has is persons choose not to correct when they find they have an error, because they're too afraid of taking blame, or I did that, and then everybody's going to say, yeah, you did it, you'll be the scapegoat for it. So people tend to want to hide those errors and not take responsibility or actability that I made that choice. And that means we're disempowered, we're depowered. And you want to empower yourself. And how you empower yourself is to own all those choices that you have made and look to see why you made the choice that may not have turned out the way you wanted. And now you can change that, because today is the first day of the rest of your eternal life. This moment is a fresh new beginning. And I do not need to create my future from the past. I need to create in this moment what feels right in my inner being, what also is intelligent given my wisdom and what I do know. And everybody does know right from wrong. And everybody does know that inner guide is guiding us all the time. So the more we look to our inner guide, then the past is all our research. We're grateful for every moment. We find the gift in every single situation, and then absolutely everything in our lives empowers us in this moment and as we go forth into the future. And we always have a future because we are eternal. But really, what is the future? It'll be just now. So whatever you want in the future, do that now.